It's Thursday, and you know what that means. That means it's time to discuss the Dynamite. Hey, friends, I'm Will Washington, and this is Day After Dynamite, right here on Fightful Overbooked. But I'm not alone here. I am also joined by the one and only Miss Cher Delaware.
Hello, I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah! And, I mean, it's not like I didn't just see you 3 days ago, or what was that, 4 days ago, in
Yes,
Orlando. But
yes,
yeah, we're back from Orlando and back in our homes. It was a great weekend at Revolution in Orlando. Lots went down, and it was a good time. It was a really good time. I'm like still just over the moon about that weekend as a whole. Like to see Reg have as good of a time as he was having, and things just going so right. There'll be a lot more talked about on Grapsody this weekend. I'll say that much. But yeah, it was a good time, and it was good to see you as well.
yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. The concert was fun. Seeing you guys up on the stage, and you had changed out of dad mode clothes by that point.
Yeah, I so to Fan Fest, so my friend Carolina bought me these socks back in. I think she bought them for me for All Out. So back in September, and they were pro wrestling socks, and they say Pro Wrestling Roar, and they're really goofy looking. And so I brought those with me, and I thought, uh, those are only functional if people can see them. So I have to wear like kind of. I actually, I was gonna say dork shorts, but like I got those shorts from H&M. Them things are I think those are fly. But anyway, so yeah, I wore the shorts and then the super high wrestling socks, and then I wore a how would you even what would you call
Uh,
that shirt?
was it like a Hawaiian?
Yeah, it's kind of Hawaiian, although I was in Florida, so
Yeah, a
Floridian.
tropical.
A
It was a
tropical, there we go.
tropical
It was a very
shirt.
tropical shirt. And yeah, I wore that to FanFest. The hard part was as we were sound checking and rehearsing everything for the concert, I was dressed that way. And it was, and so being up on stage and all of that, I'm like, I do have to go back to the hotel at some point. And there's a really funny story about that, but it doesn't work without Reg. So stay tuned for Grapsody this weekend. There'll be
Yes.
some great fun stories this weekend, I promise. And yeah, there's going to be a lot to talk about. But it's Thursday right now. This is Day After Dynamite. The whole point of this show is to discuss what we saw last night on Dynamite. And this was a really newsworthy Dynamite, wasn't it?
Was.
Because lots of things went down. And don't forget, by the way, that if you happen to be over in the chat, you can send us your super chats. We always appreciate those. And also, if you go to humperchats.com, those are always appreciated as well. Super chats will come up on the screen, but we get a bigger cut of the humper chats. So either way works for us here at Fightful Overbooked. And of course, as I say that, I decide to log into things. Why am I not logged in? You know what? We're not even going to bother with that, are we? Yes, we are. Okay, got everything pulled up. All right, so let us know, and let us know what you thought of Dynamite this week. Dynamite took place live from Fort Myers, Florida, Estero. This was a show that sold notoriously bad because they ran Jacksonville last week. They ran Orlando on Friday. You were at Rampage.
I was. It was about half empty as well.
Yeah. And then you had Revolution, which was sold out. And then back to Dynamite, which was, I'd say, less than half empty. Or less than half full, I should say. So I had concerns about this show, mainly because I had heard the rumors of all that was going down. And I thought to myself, and I say rumors, but I had heard what was going down, and I thought, this show? Because, like, next week in San Antonio is, like, practically sold out.
Right.
And week after in Austin always does well. But here, I wasn't sure I wasn't sure how it would go down with less than 3,000 people in the building. But I'd say things came off well. The show kicked off with Cher's absolute favorite song on the planet. It was Chris Jericho making his way down to the ring with Judas in tow, and it was for the Chris Jericho addressing Eddie Kingston segment. So yes, Chris Jericho had to address the fact that he reneged on his promise to shake Eddie Kingston's hand following their match at Revolution this past Sunday. What was Chris Jericho going to do? And we'd soon find out. Chris Jericho asks Eddie Kingston to make his way down. He just wants to talk to him. Now look, Chris Jericho's been teetering on the heel turn pretty much for the last month and some change. For anybody who couldn't figure out this was a heel turn, that he was trying to position himself for the fans to dislike him. I don't understand how there were people who weren't seeing that. This definitely didn't feel like it was out of nowhere.
Right.
But yeah, Jericho made his way down to the ring and called out Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston comes out. The fans start to what? Which always annoys me, especially at AEW shows, because there's no origin there. Don't chant what? And it's already annoying at WWE shows. I really hate the what chant. Which is crazy because great Stone Cold Steve Austin fan. I actually think what era Stone Cold Steve Austin, some of my favorite stuff actually. But keep it with Stone Cold. And I appreciated Eddie Kingston basically shutting it down before it took over the segment. And then the crowd was like, okay. And that was it. We moved on. So yeah, it was, and yeah, they're pointing out in the chat, Cher's a big Judas fan, seen her singing along on AEW television.
You did not see me Sunday singing along.
That's true. It's only because the cameras couldn't find you.
No, they had me on TV, and I just had
Did they?
pissy look on my face. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I haven't seen the entrance yet. I barely watched the show. I had it on in the background at least. No, what am I talking about? I've seen all of Revolution a lot, but for whatever reason, I don't watch Chris Jericho's entrance more than once. I'm not against Judas. I actually think Judas is an all-time great entrance. And part of that, entrance. I think it's an all-time great entrance, and I think that, shout out Cam Hawkins, who decided to spark a debate last summer over the most over entrance of all time between Chris Jericho's and Shinsuke Nakamura. I think now that we've had crowds back for almost a year, I don't think it's close. It's Jericho. And you literally got a crowd to sing the entire song without the backing of the song is Jericho. Right. But I get it because Jericho's easy to dislike. And luckily, they put us in a position to do so because this segment saw Eddie Kingston address Chris Jericho, tell us he doesn't like him, but that he almost didn't show up because all Eddie Kingston has done on pay-per-view is lose. But he did it. He did it for the fans. He did it for people who came up to him and told him about the Players Tribune article and how much it meant to them. And it was the biggest night of his career. And him and Jericho shook hands. And then out came 2.0 and Daniel Garcia. And at first I kind of groaned because I thought, more of this. We've seen Eddie Kingston versus 2.0. We've seen Chris Jericho versus 2.0 and Daniel Garcia. And then out comes Santana and Ortiz, and I thought, God, we've seen all of this. And then Jericho grabs the bat and cracks Santana and Ortiz. And officially has turned heel and turned on Santana and Ortiz. And then Jericho and 2.0 and Daniel Garcia all jump Santana and Ortiz and Eddie Kingston. Then out comes Jake Hager, who's confused. Why did Jericho turn on the other members of the Inner Circle? What is he doing? And then Jake Hager joins. And then after that, Jericho grabs the mic and dubs the new group The Jericho Appreciation Society. You almost had me. Till the name. Now let me get this straight. Chris Jericho, leader of the Inner Circle, joins up with the group 2.0 to form not Inner Circle 2.0, because that would be the easiest name on the planet for this group. Literally the second iteration of the Inner Circle featuring 2.0, the Inner Circle 2.0. Makes perfect sense as a name, but I guess we're also supposed to hate this, so Jericho Appreciation Society. Jeez, so stupid. And then it goes...
It's going to get over as well as GFY. I mean...
Yeah. And then Jericho said, and that's entertainment. Because he's trademarked the term sports entertainer. I guess that's where we're going with this. Yeah, so... And they're having fun with the name in the chat. Joe Pearl said he called them the Jazz Holes. And Greg Cherry Brand says Jazz Clowns. Either way. And Bill's Mafia pointed out that it's a take on Jericho's personal security in WCW. Good reference.
Well, as we discovered this weekend, people don't understand references from people's earlier careers. So.
No. No, and the thing is, even if they don't understand it, even when it's explained to them,
they're
still the thing that I've learned is that things have to be for everyone or they're for no one.
Yes.
Yes. C. Salisbury sends in a super chat. He says, Jericho trolling the entire world with the name of his new stable, and the t-shirt dropped instantly. Yeah, I am... this segment gets... Honestly, it's an A- for me. In that I liked Eddie here a lot. I liked conflicted Jericho a lot. Jericho also looking good. Like the weight loss and the hair plugs. I was gonna say hair plugs and dye. All working for him. But yeah, this was a good segment, and it actually, like, this combination of people all kind of makes sense, because you've kind of replaced every part of the Inner Circle. You have with Sammy out, you have Daniel Garcia in his place, and you got Santana and Ortiz out, and you replaced them with 2.0. Everything works here. I liked it. It was a good segment. It was fun. And it took the turn that it needed to take. The crowd bought into it, and Jericho's a heel again, which is where he needs to be, because I have never, ever, and I'm talking about going back to 2000, I've said this before, I've never liked Chris Jericho as a babyface. I don't know what it is, but nothing works for Chris Jericho as a babyface. That said, Jericho as a heel has worked for me a lot. I thought that Jericho's 2008 character, like, all-time good stuff. When AEW first launched, like, it was on the backs of heel Chris Jericho. Heel Chris Jericho works. I thought he had some stuff that was working at the beginning of the feud with the Pinnacle, but then it just nosedived. And so I have never liked Chris Jericho as a babyface. That's right, chat. Never, ever liked him as a babyface. Including, like, I didn't even really dig, like, the list. Like, it was fun as a heel thing, but Chris Jericho, for whatever reason, becomes a complete ham when he babyfaces things to the point of where he makes them unbearable. And so back to being a heel, I can live with that. A-. What'd you think?
So it actually took me through a lot of emotions, because, like, Eddie's speech and everything, like, that was great. And then Jericho, I was like, yeah, he's definitely gonna, like, knock the shit out of him or something the whole time, you know? And then when they came out, I was like, are we about to have Eddie Kingston and Jericho as a tag team? Because I do not need this in my life. Like, I'm like, where's John Moxley? Like, I was getting so, I'm like, oh my God. And then when everything happened, I'm like, oh, this is great. He's a heel now. And then Jake Hager came out surprised. I was also surprised because I didn't know Jake Hager still worked there. So once we got through all of that, I would say that I would give it an A minus because it was good.
Good. We're on the same page. Yeah, I agree with that though. I had kind of that same feeling like the whole time. I'm like, okay, Jericho's gonna like kick him in the balls or something, and then when it didn't happen, I was a little bit confused. But I'm glad we're done with the Inner Circle. It's been 3 years. We saw them as heels, we saw them as baby faces, and now it's gone. So I'm ready for everybody to move forward with the next thing. And the next thing on this show was actually, surprisingly, the All Elite Wrestling World Championship on the line. Is that the only thing I'm missing a graphic for? I'm like going up and down my graphics. I'm like, where is the world title on the line? Okay, I forgot to grab the graphic for the world title being on the line. But the world title was on the line. It was Hangman Adam Page defending the AEW World Championship against Dante Martin, the number one contender. I thought this was, one, surprising to even have on the show, but two, I thought actually it's kind of perfect. Just the idea that Dante Martin had gained enough singles wins to earn this, but at the same time, like we can't quite just throw away his singles run because he's back with Darius when he's earned all these singles wins. So like this is to me was kind of like a great payoff to his singles run of giving him the world title match against Hangman Adam Page. And as I say all of that, I actually do have a graphic now. So one more time, the AEW World Championship on the line. It was Hangman Adam Page versus Dante Martin of Top Flight. And yeah, so this was short. It was actually, I bet you on record, the shortest world title match AEW's ever had.
Probably.
I'd have to look that up, but this didn't go very long, but it was just kind of nonstop in the process.
Mm-hmm.
It was Dante. Fun. Yeah, it was. And Dante got the show out with Hangman. Hangman ultimately beats him with AEW's most protected finish, the buckshot lariat. Actually, I take that back. The one-winged angel's probably a little more protected. But we had a victory from Hangman Adam Page. He wins. Dante's headed up the ramp. Hangman calls him back into the ring and tells him that he knows Top Flight is back. But he hopes that, he said, but if Dante makes it back into the world title match, he would gladly do it again. Then out came Adam Cole, angry that he lost, and challenged Hangman to a 6-man tag next week. Kind of implies that his partners in that match are going to be the Young Bucks. But he never outright says it. He says 2 of my best friends and 2 people who you're really familiar with, and one of the best tag teams in the world. And so the challenge is accepted. Backstage, Hangman reveals to the Dark Order, because they thought they were going to be the partners, that he actually picked Jurassic Express to be his tag partners. And then we get a backstage segment with the Elite and Adam Cole. As he's about to reveal that the Bucks are his partners, the Bucks state that they really want nothing to do with stuff relating to Hangman. And Adam Cole said, well, that's okay. I wasn't going to pick you guys anyway. And so, sorry, hella distracted by Jeremy's face just popping up at the bottom of my screen. And now he's laughing. Thank you, Jeremy. But I'm sure he'll explain shortly.
I'm just here to heckle share.
Oh, God. Well, I'm not logged into the Streamlabs
Boo,
or whatever, so I
Cher.
can't see you at the bottom.
Boo, boo, Cher. Will,
Yes.
I look very weird with this thing like right in the way. You don't have to take it off. I'm not going to stay long. Again, just want to heckle share and say hi to Will, who was very listening to Swerve today, giving you guys a shout out, which was awesome.
I know. I will tell you that reading that today was fully not like you're the reason I learned that was all said. I was fully not ever expecting that story to ever become public.
It's very funny because I knew the story, and yeah, he just like outright says it. I was like, well, I mean, he said it. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, I know. Right, and so yeah, I was like, okay, that's out there now. That's cool. Was fully never expecting that. So that's interesting and funny. And I love Jeremy with the split down his face.
Yes, I know. Y'all have a great show. Boo, Cher, boo. Evie told me to be nice to you and I didn't listen. Boo.
Thank you, Jeremy. And so, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so basically Adam Cole he said, I wasn't picking the Bucks anyway. I was actually picking Red Dragon. So there. And that was that. But overall segment. Oh, and by the way, shout out to Mac, recently married Mac. He says, well, considering he talked about his partners being young, it can't be Red Dragon either.
Oh, poor Grandpa Fish.
Yeah, those will never get old, but Bobby Fish will. So yeah, this was fine. This was a solid B minus. There was not a whole lot to the Dante Martin Hangman stuff, but what we got was pretty good and a good look into the future. And I had a hunch they weren't going to end Page and Cole that soon because it started very suddenly, and I can see them probably pushing this to some kind of stipulation match in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we still have time. Matter of fact, what shows are coming up? Because there's why am I doing this off the top of my head when I could just look it up? But I'm pretty sure there's San Antonio next week, and the week after that is Austin, and the week after that is that one that's like hasn't sold shit in, I think it's Columbia, South Carolina. Like,
yeah, and I think that's Mania week too.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, with the Columbia show, I would just throw Jeff Hardy like all over the posters right now, and then go on an advertising campaign and see what we end up with there. But yeah, no, this was fine. What did you think?
I really liked the way that Hangman put over Martin after the match. Like him, he doesn't need much to look great. Like, he is fantastic anyway in the ring, but he really put him over big time. And then just with his words after, I enjoyed that. Obviously knew somebody was going to come out. And of course it was Cole coming out, and with his normal Adam Cole, like, you didn't deserve that win. I beat you, blah, blah, blah. He says the same thing every time. But when he was making the remarks and not specifically saying who it was, I figured there was going to be some shenanigans backstage with it. I did really want Hangman to end up with the Dark Order, because I feel like we're just not really seeing the Dark Order.
But I think that's kind of the story here, is that Hangman's been kind of distancing himself from them, and they don't quite understand why or what's going on. So there's at least a story to that.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, whatever, Jurassic Express, like we haven't seen them go against them, but I am really enjoying the Red Dragon Young Bucks sibling feud that they're having. Like,
and they're
so
both fighting
funny
over
to
mom.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's so funny to me. So I enjoy that. I still think that he's going to end up with Red Dragon and Kenny's going to come back and be with the Bucks and we'll have that whole thing. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, the match was great. The talking stuff was okay. Like I said last night, this show had a lot of talking. They usually do not have that much talking on their shows, and this one had a lot, and it made people very angry. And I'm like, I'm making an observation. Like, it has had a lot of talking, and I understand they're setting up new things because pay-per-view just happened, but yeah, I mean, it was fine.
Yeah. Well, then, speaking of talking, we actually then saw the Workhorsemen make an AEW appearance. We've seen JD Drake. Literally, we just saw him on Rampage last week get beaten by Keith Lee. But this time, we do see the team of Anthony Henry and JD Drake take on the newly formed team of Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley, accompanied by William Regal. I have to say, first off, on the Regal thing, I want his WCW music. I don't know what it's going to take, but now that I know that AEW is up to purchasing kind of stock-ish music, give me the Regal theme. Just give it. I want the Steven Regal theme. We haven't gotten to hear him enter to that in like 23 years, and I want to hear it. It reminds me so much. I was playing it last night, and I was just getting these nostalgic memories of watching WCW Saturday afternoons on the 6:05 Eastern on the Superstation, and I don't know. I just want the theme back. I recognize that I'm 6 years older than you, and therefore
I grew up on WCW. That's what we watched. So
good. But that 6 years makes a big difference because that's the difference between like Nitro era WCW and pre-Nitro era. Because I think pre-Nitro era is like some of the best stuff to me. But I recognize that most people know Nitro because Nitro they came along in 95 and it was like, here's this brand new product that is chock full of surprises, as Eric Bischoff liked to say. But either way, there wasn't much to this match other than showcasing Moxley and Bryan as a team. And then after they won, and like I mean, the Workhorsemen got the show out a little bit, but ultimately this was really about Bryan and Moxley as a team, and Bryan kicking some heads in, and then locking in the LaBelle lock. We got the victory. After the match, Regal grabs the mic, and he's with Tony Schiavone. Actually, Tony Schiavone is interviewing him. Tony Schiavone's holding the mic, and Regal about to make my ass cry.
Me too.
He almost broke down. He almost started crying.
I know.
Yeah,
he lost his voice there for a minute.
Yeah, and then I was getting choked up, and I'm like, I don't even know the story, but I feel like I understand it. But Regal telling Schiavone how much Schiavone did for him, and it was crazy that these two were people I would see on screen together for years, and I hadn't seen them together on TV in like 25 years, which is nuts. And then Regal goes into his background with Bryan Danielson, a thing that not a lot of people are familiar with. And then, and he really dives into his background with Bryan Danielson. And then is basically like, yeah, and I got some background with Moxley as well. But anyway, now we've got a team. And somebody posted, I forgot, I'm sorry, I'm not giving credit for it, but they posted they said Regal on Bryan, and it was the Vince McMahon wishing John Cena happy birthday, and then it was Regal on Moxley, and it was the happy birthday Shane. I thought that was a really good comparison.
I saw one that was like Regal on Bryan. It was like, I love this. He's like my son. And it was like Regal on Moxley. I found him in a dumpster.
And it's like, yeah, he's got background with both, but it's very clear that like Bryan's his guy. Yeah. But yeah, they are officially a team. And we are going to see where this goes. Again, this is a B- segment for me. It was fine. There wasn't much to the match, and this was really all about Regal telling his story. Honestly, the Regal stuff is like an A.
Yeah.
And just getting to see him out there, I thought was dope. But I'm doing this all as an encompassing segment, and I'd say B-. It was good. What did you think?
I agree that, I mean, the Regal stuff was great. I saw that he actually apologized to everyone on Twitter earlier because he went over on time, and he apologized to the people that had time cut from their segments because of it, which he said he apologized to them personally, but he wanted to say that too. And I'm like, no one's going to be mad at William Regal. Like,
Yeah.
they're not going to be mad at you, sir. But yeah, I thought his part was really good. Like you said, the match was the match. I mean, it wasn't meant to be a banger of a match or anything. They were just getting their stuff in. But I think that I will give it a B. Yeah.
Dope. Also, just so the graphic doesn't go to waste, I did have a graphic for that. And now it's gone.
William Regal.
Yeah, look at Regal. And so next, with a rare explanation for this, but Tony Khan noted that the title match went shorter than expected. And so therefore, with the match not reaching expected time, he threw in a bonus match, which saw Pac go one-on-one with Wheeler Yuta. They wrestled.
They sure did.
I mean, it was...
Has Wheeler Yuta got the graphic yet?
No,
Like,
he's not on the roster.
he's there all the time.
He is there all the time. And my wife thinks he's super hot. And so there's that too. And she likes when Wheeler Yuta's on screen. And I guess I see it. Yeah, you're like, eh. I can see it. I bet the beard adds like probably 3 extra points to him.
The beard usually does add extra. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, wow, that was a weird question. My friend of mine just reached out to me, who I haven't talked to in like a year. So I suppose I should respond to that at some point today. And yeah, there wasn't much to this match. It's like, I don't know, I guess a C just for existing. It wasn't offensive, but it was just kind of there. It didn't follow up on anything going on. It didn't follow up on, like, are we just done with the Death Triangle in House of Black? Is everything going on with Best Friends? Are they done with? I don't know. This didn't really follow up on anything, so it just existed.
No.
It was 2 baby faces wrestling. Whatever. But it was really just to get us by till the next segment.
Yeah.
Which was the talk of the night. It was the thing everybody was waiting for. It was a segment known as the AHFO Emergency Board Meeting. What does this mean? What could this mean? Everybody knew what the fuck this meant, but it was just a question of how we get there. And, I mean, literally, it was like worst kept secret on the planet. Although I had caught word sometime last week about the theme music. And I had gotten 3 confirmations on it. And so I like really tried to be subtle, and then Sean just drops the Fightful Select story because John had posted this segment might go extreme, and I was like, I hear this might be a loaded segment. And then Sean just drops the article like, hey, AEW's getting the music.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, there goes that. But like, I mean, I'm glad they did,
Me too.
because that was one of those things where that whole extreme music library which includes the Hardys music and the Crash Holly music and all that. It's been licensed by a million different companies, and it's very, very usable. It's kind of amazing, as a matter of fact. I'm pretty sure WCW also did license it, but didn't use it for any wrestlers. But they very well could have. I know that I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure it's somebody in the chat remind me. But in '97, I know there was a song that WCW and WWF both licensed for different reasons, and we're using like the same song for different purposes. I'm surprised that kind of stuff doesn't happen more now that we have more of that kind of music out there. But anyway,
right.
So it comes to a vote. The AHFO is going to vote on whether or not Matt Hardy stays in the group. Andrade votes him out. So does Jose. Butcher and the Blade were just kind of standing there. That wasn't really like explained why they didn't vote. But then it was up to Private Party to decide. And Private Party votes thumbs up. But then when Matt Hardy turns around, thumbs down. And this leads to the AHFO all jumping Matt Hardy, kicking him out of the group. Sting and Darby's music hits. Him and Sting come to the ring. And then Jeff Hardy's music hits. Loaded hits. And the crowd goes nuts. There was nothing for me to worry about, because even though this was only like 2,800 people in the crowd, it sounded like 30,000, because when those roars hit, when that music hit and they lost it, Jeff Hardy makes his way down, still has to dance on the way
Still dancing. That boy's gonna dance no matter what.
Matt's in the ring being choked, and he's like, "Hey, you hear the music." And he does this thing down the ramp, and then he enters the ring, hits a bunch of his signature moves, hits a swanton. Matt and Jeff have an emotional hug. This moment is now, as we speak, up to like 1.5 million views on YouTube. It exploded everywhere. My ex-girlfriend hit me up to tell me that she's like, did I just hear that the Hardys are back? And keep in mind that this was like a relationship from like 2006. And back when like the Hardys had like that run.
Right.
And like, this is everywhere. I forget how much of a difference the Hardys made for people, that like the Hardys were a draw for a lot of people.
Yes.
And yeah, and then we got the graphic everybody was waiting for. Jeff Hardy is All Elite. He's All Elite.
It was fun. It was funny because obviously everyone assumed he was going to come out first. So then when Darby's music hits, everybody's like, what the hell's going on?
Right.
and he'd been getting his ass beat for a while before Darby's music hit.
I know, right?
They just slowly walk down to the ring, which, to be fair, Sting tried to kill himself this weekend, so he probably does need to walk slowly down to the ring.
Yeah.
They just walk slowly down, like, okay. And then when Jeff's music finally hit, I'm like, what were you doing backstage that you just let your brother get his ass beat for
I know.
10 minutes
Like,
before you
I'm just
came out?
I'm just imagining him just like sitting backstage, and it's just like, you know what, Sting, Darby, you guys go, and if you guys still need me in this very clearly outnumbered situation, then I'll go.
And like him trying to do his dance quickly as he's running down I laughed so hard. He's like you're fast forwarding it, doing it down. I'm like, oh my God, Jeff. But yeah, it was great. The hug was beautiful. I always love seeing people get like reunited. It reminded me of the Edge and Christian hug from the Rumble last year. So yeah, it was nice. It's funny that Edge is the only one of them not in AEW
right? Now. Well, what's kind of crazy, because I had a thought that, there was talk, Edge has mentioned himself that AEW is essentially what got the ball rolling on him getting back in the ring, that he was originally going to sign with AEW in a producer's role, and then he was asked by Tony, hey, do you think you might be able to wrestle? And he said, I don't know, let me find out. And then he got cleared and was like, oh, I guess I can. But if I can, I should probably call Vince, because Vince has done so much for me, and he probably would be pissed if I made a return to the ring and I wasn't there. And granted, I've said on other podcasts before that Edge is a really tough case. Like, a lot of who Edge is kind of belongs to WWE. Like, the rated R superstar, his name. Like, Christian kind of has the benefit of he owns his name. He owns he doesn't own the music, but he had an identity outside of WWE that he could resume elsewhere. But he owns a lot of who he is. Matt and Jeff Hardy own a lot of who they are, and then their music is, of course, not owned by WWE. But like Edge is one of those cases where if you don't have You Think You Know Me, if you don't have his name, the nicknames, any of that, you're kind of just left with Adam Copeland, which is like not a bad thing, but you don't have nearly as much as you would have otherwise.
Right.
So like I get why for him it was like WWE is the place I got to return. But on the other hand, I also thought I know WWE did like a really big purchasing deal with Alter Bridge over Metalingus as a theme, and I believe that I know they have it in perpetuity. I wonder if they have exclusive rights. Like,
that's a good point.
If he had shown up in AEW, would he have been able to bring the theme? I don't know. And shout out to Chris Mueller, who you're sending me $2 when I owe you like $45, dude. But thank you. Chris says Jeff is a special kind of over with fans. He really is.
He is.
Like the way that video blew up, and it's not like Jeff has been gone for like ages. Jeff Hardy was literally just seen in January. December. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right, because he was released in December. Of course, it's March. But yeah, it has not been that long. He was really over at Survivor Series, but like it really hasn't been an eternity without Jeff. And yet the way people are acting, it's as if it was. And that's kind of cool that like Jeff can do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the music, everything. This segment gets an A for me, even if there were a lot of parts of it that were silly. The fact is, it tugged at my heartstrings. I'm pulling at these as if these are attached to my heart. But yeah, I like it. Solid A.
Yeah, I would have to agree. They could have went out there and done the dumbest shit possible, but Jeff coming back, it was going to be an A. I mean, that it's just the way that it is. Jeff Hardy is like universally loved. He's just great, and it was just a lot of fun. Like I said, seeing the emotion between the two was great, and I need Andrade to get a shirt that says "How you know." Because he does that almost every promo now. And it's so great. Yeah. Every time. Oh my God, it's so funny. The way he says it every time. How you know? Like
it gets me every time. How you know and Mr. Stink are like my two favorite Andrade-isms. And already, just for those two things, like Andrade's AEW stay has been a win.
Oh, yes.
Just because it pops me every time. So big fan of that. And yeah, FTR, by the way, had fired Tully because Tully had advised them to go after championships and, ignore all this personal beef with the Bucks and Red Dragon. Kind of feels like, I'm not sure if FTR is going face here.
I don't know. I mean, the problem with them is like people do like them, like just the way that they act online. Well, I guess more Dax than Cash. Cash doesn't really talk to people.
Oh my God, like, Dax! Yeah, Dax is like, extremely vocal.
Yeah, and like they're just funny and everything. So I feel like their online presence, people like them. But we're supposed to not like them in the ring, and they act like assholes. But like, if they're aligned with MJF, they're gonna have to not be like. Are they gonna go with Wardlow instead? Like,
it feels like the Pinnacle's kind of done. Is what I gathered from all this. Yeah. And Shadman Huda says, Tully don't give a damn about people's families. LMAO.
Exactly.
Yeah. But as far as this was concerned, yeah, because like I've seen a lot of critics who have said like, you know, how come we haven't seen FTR get a rematch with the Bucks? And it's like, well, because the Bucks turned heel like right after that, and so there's really never been a like scenario to do it. But if you do turn FTR babyface, then you do put them in a position to do it. And since the Bucks are heels, and also puts them in a position to face Red Dragon, which happened once on an episode of NXT and was very good, and is something that should be revisited as a feud. So I'm good with that.
Yeah, I would like to see them as faces. I mean, just because they haven't been in so long. So
yeah, they came into AEW as baby faces and then turned heel and joined up with when they jumped the Rock and Roll Express. So
yeah, which seems like forever ago at this point.
I know. Pretty much a lot of like the pandemic era stuff is like kind of washing from memory because it all kind of runs together. Like I tend to like mentally associate my wrestling memories with where a show took place because I can say, oh yeah, that show took place in Houston and I remember the Houston crowd and all that. But because it's like all Daly's place, I actually do like mentally struggle with remembering events. Yeah. But everything since they've been back on the road and everything since WWE's been back on the road, all I have to do is just mentally think of, okay, what city was that? All right, I know what the main event was. I know what took place. I have that all down. Without that, if it's just like, oh, this took place in the Thunderdome. Oh, this was Daly's place. Nothing. It's all gone. It all just blends together as one thing unless it was like a special episode.
Honestly, that's very impressive to me because with my ADHD, I barely know what town I'm in, let alone where the shows are. Like, I'll be like, where's the show tonight? And someone will tell me, and then 5 minutes later, I'm like, where's the show tonight? Like,
see, I feel like it's the other way around where, like, I almost, like, use that to make my ADHD function for other things. Because
that's how Sean is too. That's why he remembers like on Quizlemania. That's because he will just go through all that stuff, and I'm like, my brain doesn't focus on anything. So right. I always say that my brain is burnt spaghetti. Like I don't know what's going on.
See, it's for me. I use a lot of my wrestling memory to remember other things. Like one of the running jokes with me is that I remember the date I lost my virginity because it was the night Triple H returned at Madison Square Garden. And so, therefore, I know when Hunter came back. But, like, there's little things with pro wrestling that I constantly, like, associate with other parts of my life. And I make it work. Speaking of parts of my life, Swerve had a promo backstage. And he is introduced to Tony Nese. Tony Nese is upset because they rolled out the red carpet for the debut of Swerve Strickland. But Tony Nese did not get that. So this leads to the announcement that these two will be facing each other in the main event of Rampage this Friday, and they talked about how it's a renewal of their Friday night rivalries because they faced each other a lot on 205 Live. That was one of those things that it's like, I know AEW is really good about basically making callbacks. Hold on. Yes. I know AEW is really good about making callbacks to things that exist in all aspects of pro wrestling. That it's actually a good thing. Chris Jericho has talked about how AEW kind of acknowledges the entire existing wrestling world, right? Mm-hmm. That's a good thing. However, pandemic era wrestling from another company does not need to be referenced in any way, shape, or form And the fact is, like, Swerve and Tony Nese is all stuff that happened on 205 Live in a time where, like, literally nobody wanted to watch 205 Live. It was great stuff. Great stuff.
People just didn't watch it.
You probably could have just renewed it, though, as a brand new thing. But either way, it was a little drop there of these two working 205 Live. They've worked together before, and they are going to be facing each other again on a Friday night this Friday.
Is this Friday live, or did they tape it last
It's
night?
taped. Yeah, everybody saw that. Hey, here's a little sneak 2-second peek, because people have been like, I keep seeing it on Twitter. People are like, oh, when are they going to release the Swerve theme? And I keep thinking, oh, that's too bad that, like, you guys haven't heard that, because, what is that? It'll be released eventually.
It was great at the show.
Yeah, it was. Both times you heard it, because you heard it performed at the concert.
Yeah.
That was a great little Easter egg. And then...
Yeah, as soon as they started saying, I swerve when I drive, I'm like, I know who that is.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and then Sean runs up to me and is like, so, just... he's like, we're just singing Swerve's theme? Is that what we're doing here? Like, really trying to, like, absolutely get a confirmation on it.
Oh, yeah. He was like a kid in a candy store running around. Mm-hmm. I was just sitting there with my knee brace on, and he's running over here and running over here and running over here. And then he was, like, trying to ask Reg stuff. And I'm like, leave these people alone.
I said to Swerve at the show, I was like, I wouldn't step past this barricade because, like, Sean Ross Sapp is right there, and he's gonna report it.
He had like a radar, like.
And I'm saying this because Tony Khan put it out there that he was at the concert, and so fine, it's out there. But yeah, I had said to him, like, hey, Sean Ross Sapp is like right there, and we were joking around. Nyla Rose is like, and she's like, yeah, don't let your arms be seen. And he's like, I could just be a really big Swerve fan. And it's like, yeah, Swerve fan that has like all his tattoos and is like wearing his shirts. Like, okay. But yeah, that's going to be a fun match, him and Tony Nese. And then we got an interview with the new face of the Revolution. That's right. We heard from Wardlow holding the brass ring in this picture. Wardlow explained everything. That he's known for a long time who MJF is. He's always known. But the fact is, he didn't grow up with money, and he did what he needed to do. But now he's hoping to earn a new contract by becoming TNT champion. And I thought that was kind of cool. Because I've been talking about wanting to see this for a while. This is specifically the idea that because Wardlow never got a Wardlow is all elite graphic. It's never happened. So they could still do that at some point. Like the idea that he's under contract to MJF, but if he wins the TNT title, he earns himself the actual AEW contract. Right. And that's what he wants. And the fact is, next week, he gets his shot at the TNT champion. Who is that going to be? Is it going to be Sammy Guevara, or is it going to be Scorpio Sky? I guess we'll find out in just a few minutes, assuming that you get all your Dynamite results from the two of us. But yeah, I thought this was a good promo, actually. I was surprised to see Wardlow go out there and kind of soliloquy, but he did it, and he did well at it, I thought.
Yeah, I did too. I don't know that I'd ever really heard him talk before. Like, I mean, he did well, and him telling the story about like his mom being a single mom and everything, like that, he made it all make sense. Yeah. And I thought it was good. Yeah, it was explained everything and set up for him to do his match. So.
Yes. And it seems like a given that he'd win it, right?
Obviously, he's a Wardlow.
And so then we had the tag team titles on the line. Jurassic Express defending again the AEW World Tag Team titles against the number one contenders, Max Caster, Anthony Bowens, the Acclaimed. And yeah, we've seen these two teams go against each other, but you know what? This was their best outing. I thought this was a very creative outing, to the point of where I almost bought a title change in at one spot here. Yeah, no, this was great. Caster's rap was a little bit of a tame. I guess is the best way to put that.
Yeah, he just talked about like gas prices
Uh-huh.
and what did he say? Christian was his dad or something like that. Like, I don't know.
It was just like usual.
Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of lame. I mean, it was stuff people could relate to, but otherwise, I don't know. It was mostly just fine.
Oh, he said something about not growing pubes. That's what it was.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
But no, I thought this was a good match, actually. I was very impressed with this combination this time around. I thought this was the best outing between the two. Like I said, I bought the near fall that I'm like, oh, like, you ever slow down time where your brain goes through like 1,000,001 thoughts before something happens? Because I swear it was like 1, 2, and before that kick out, my brain goes, all right, I can see the Acclaimed as tag team champions, and I'm like mentally going over like all the people they could face as tag team champions, and I'm like, okay, but then what happens to Jurassic Express? I guess we move on and we have the Christian turn and all of that, and then kick out. And I thought, oh, okay, never mind. But literally went through 1,000,000 different thoughts in that short
I know
little
exactly
period.
what you mean.
Yeah. And shout out to the super chat again. Thank you, Shadman. He says, that man Bowens is a star in the making. I think so too. But yeah, this was good, and like this is a solid B+ for me. I enjoyed the match. I enjoyed the just them continuing to remind us that this tag division has a lot going for it, and especially now that you've got the Hardys in it, and you've got Bryan Danielson and Moxley in this division, but it's still like not Jurassic Express are still our tag team champions.
Yeah.
Layla Hirsch took on Thunder Rosa. Winner gets a shot next week at St. Patrick's Day Slam. As if you didn't know where this was going, and I feel like every single piece of this was extremely predictable, but at the same time, it was what everybody wanted, which is that Thunder Rosa gets her shot in her hometown of San Antonio, Texas, but how will she be able to prevent what happened at Revolution? Because there was so much interference. There was interference from Jamie Hayter. There was interference from Reba. I guess there has to be some kind of like box-like structure that keeps these people out of the ring and keeps them from helping Britt Baker win. What do you do with that? I know. A box. No, not quite. All right, how about a steel cage? That's right, folks. This box-like structure. It's like my favorite thing from WrestleMania last year. But yeah, we saw Layla Hirsch take on Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa got the victory. Match was... I would have wanted better out of these two because I thought that Layla had a really great showing at Revolution with Chris Statlander. And Rosa is one of the best in the world. I thought we would have gotten a better showing from these two, and it didn't really feel like we did. But at the same time, they also didn't quite go like balls to the wall with it. Maybe they will eventually. But Hirsch was going to cheat again the same way she did to beat Chris Statlander, but out came Red Velvet to stop her. as it looks like we're going to move forward. Like, that's going to be the transition feud, which is great because as this keeps playing out on TV, I keep thinking, I'm going to hear my song on Dynamite.
Yeah.
Like, I've only heard it on Elevation so far. And no, it was on Elevation last week and it was on Dark this week. And I just want to hear and see Red Velvet come out to In the Mix. I only knew that she did at the Rampage taping because Jesse sent me 2 videos. And just making sure that I saw and was extremely happy. So shout out Jesse for such. But yeah, we get the announcement of the match. And then Britt Baker cuts a promo on Thunder Rosa. She addressed Thunder Rosa's boo-boo face from Revolution.
Yeah.
I thought that's interesting because there's no real way to do that in kayfabe. And I feel like doing it, I don't know. I didn't like addressing that at all.
Yeah. That wasn't for me.
Right. Not for me either. And usually I'm like, I could deal with inside references as long as it keeps itself within the context of pro wrestling. But like the idea that Rosa would have, for those who don't know what boo-boo face is, that's the face that you have when you're not happy with the booking or the whatever it is that you're doing on screen, and you're visibly showing it. And people had noticed that Rosa did not have a look of enthusiasm on her way to the ring for her match with Britt Baker that she subsequently lost. Sorry, because Ninja Mortis in the chat is like, her what? Yes, that is an actual term that is used for when you are selling on TV that you're doing something that you weren't happy with. As a matter of fact, and I might get some stands in my mentions again, but the queen of that for a long time was Sasha Banks. She, for a couple of years, was the queen of telegraphing the ending to a match simply because you could tell if she kind of had a look of like, kind of a ho-hum look, you knew she was going to lose a match. And it was like, it worked every single time. It was like clockwork. She guaranteed it, and you could see if she had a look of enthusiasm, she was happy with the result, and she knew she was going to get the pin that night. And that's one of those things that, like, you can't do as a performer. And people were pointing out that Thunder Rosa had done that at Revolution, and then here on Dynamite, she looked way more enthusiastic for a match. And Britt pointed it out in her promo, and like I said, there's no real way to do that because... like, the way she kind of tried to spin it in a kayfabe way was like, oh, you looked way more enthusiastic tonight. I guess you thought you were going to win this one. And it's like,
right.
No. Because, like, there's I used to give shit to John Moxley back as Dean Ambrose because he used to have the reverse boo-boo face where if he seemed overly enthusiastic, I'm like, oh, he's going to lose. Because, like, he would almost, like, try to oversell and overhype up. And it was, like, so much of I'm trying to make sure people can't read my look that there's definitely an in-between. He used to do the same thing, though, as Dean Ambrose, where he would be super hyped for a loss. And, I don't know. It's, like I said, it is one of those things that just you can't telegraph. And don't.
Yeah.
But either way.
I called, I think we all knew what was going to happen. Like, Sunday, I thought, okay, Rosa might actually win this. And then she didn't. And the people that I was sitting with, I was like, so she's going to win, and then she's going to have a cage match and win in her hometown. Like,
yeah, pretty much.
It was pretty obvious.
I think it telegraphed itself well. Speaking of which, though, I have to ask you because I've been curious since Sunday, and I haven't talked to you since Sunday, but I have to ask about the stinky seats.
Oh, no.
Because you're tweeting about this the whole night to the point of where I like offered you my other ticket because I had 3
You
seats.
Did.
Yeah. Do tell.
So I was supposed to go to the show with Demon Diva. We typically go to the shows together. She was not able to come. So about an hour and a half before the show started, I bought a different seat. I bought a floor seat. And I was...
Wait, you bought a what seat?
A floor seat.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I was by the ramp. There were 2 seats and then me. Mm-hmm. And the guy that was to my left was like 6'5", so that was super fun because I could not see anything because he was so tall. And he was probably like 60 years old too, so it was kind of weird. You could tell that he was just there for his son. He wasn't really into it. And then the guy to my right was Stinky Guy. I don't want to be like super mean, but like you gotta know that you smell. And I did not think that it was super hot in there, but I guess a lot of other people did. And he was profusely sweating. I mean, like his hair was wet, like just... And then, of course, you know, like Jungle Boy comes out, he lifts his arms up, and every time he had signs lifting his arms up. And he just... And, like, you sat in the floor seats. They're very close together anyway. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't have the armrest in between you. And he was man-spreading the whole time, too. So he's, like, half on my seat. And he was not a big guy, but he was larger than average anyway. So, like, broad shoulders, already kind of in my space. Then he's got his leg over there. He was putting his stuff in front of my seat, all of his posters and everything. And I was over it. I was so mad. And like, you know that I hurt my knee. So I'm trying to keep my leg straightened out. And he just keeps pushing that stuff over. And I kicked it like 10 times. I was getting so upset. And I said something to him. Like, I wasn't going to be like, dude, you fucking stink. But I said something to him twice about him, like, being halfway onto my seat. And he was like, oh, sorry. And then he would stand up and sit down and do the same thing again. And I'm like, I can't do this. I cannot. So I still had my other seats. So my friend Destiny was also in the floor seats, and she's only like 4'11", so she couldn't see anything. So we went up and sat, and yes, we went up and sat in my other seats, and then came back down at the end and got our chairs. But yeah, he was like the epitome of when people talk about wrestling fans needing deodorant and to shower. It was rough. And my friend, I think he's on Twitter as Drunk JJ. He was in the row in front of me, but down on the end. And he said even when he walked over to take a picture at the ramp, he could smell him. It was just rough. It was a lot. And it was a lot. That's everybody said when they put me on screen during Jericho's entrance that I looked like I was just pissed off at the smelly guy. Because I just had this awful...
I have to go back and rewatch this. I haven't even seen the entrance, so I have to go back and rewatch this.
And the camera guy that has like the mohawk, but like the bad mohawk because he's going bald up here, so it's just like kind of around there. He kept coming over and like pointing the camera right at me, and I'm like, buddy, you are not getting me singing, so don't even try it.
That's dope. Not the stinky guy, but the story was good.
Yeah, poor stinky guy.
No, poor you.
Well, I mean, yeah, poor me, but I was like, man, I'm tweeting this out to like over 10,000 people about how bad this man stinks. So I'm like,
Well, finally, TNT title on the line. It was Scorpio Sky going one-on-one with Sammy Guevara. And somebody just recently pointed out to me on Twitter, found one of my old tweets that I had apparently called this one back in November. November 4th, I tweeted that Scorpio Sky is going to be the one to beat Sammy Guevara for the TNT title. And here we are 4 months later, 4 months and 6 days later. Scorpio Sky won. I mean, it's just reading the tea leaves, I guess. But like, it's one of those things where they kind of made it really, I won't say obvious, but there were signs along the way that Scorpio was going to be the guy. And that like on every TNT title match, He was always at ringside. He was watching. They would always cut the cameras over to Scorpio in the crowd, watching and scouting these Sammy Guevara matches. And to me, I felt like, okay, they're clearly making it so that Scorpio has Sammy Guevara scouted, and by the time they actually do the match, Scorpio should know what to do and how to beat him.
Right.
And so, even in the Cody match, the ladder match, Cody and Scorpio, or it's Cody and Sammy Guevara in the ladder match to determine the undisputed champion. Multiple times they cut to Scorpio Sky in the crowd watching the two of them have this ladder match. Like, it's been set up for a minute. It was just a matter of how we got there. And once we got there, I always knew it's going to be Scorpio's time. He's going to get the belt as soon as he finally gets to Sammy. But they told a little bit of a story to get there, and that because there was questions surrounding Paige Van Zandt. When is she going to sign with AEW? Thought she was supposed to sign this past weekend. What happened? And early on in the match, Sammy had introduced the table. He goes for a 630. Splat. Shatters the table. It was the craziest looking thing.
Oh my gosh.
And but that puts him at a disadvantage. They go to commercial break. He's being helped out of the arena, but he wants to continue the fight. And this also brought out Ty Conti to check on him, which all turned out to be a setup for everything surrounding everything. It's set up what Paige Van Zandt is going to do. It's clear that Paige Van Zandt was going to have the feud with Brandy and Cody, and instead now it is Ty and Sammy having the feud with Paige Van Zandt and Scorpio Sky. But yeah, Sammy was at a disadvantage the rest of the match, but Scorpio never had to cheat to beat him. And I appreciated that he essentially beat him clean. Now, yeah, Sammy had, of course, he went through that table, so he was at a disadvantage the entire match. But the match saw Sammy, he went for, what the hell did he go for? Was it a shooting star? Went for some kind of splash. Couldn't remember what it was. But he went for the splash, and Scorpio got his knees up. And yeah, Dan Lambert got on the ring apron so that Ethan Page could get a distraction in, but then in came Ty Conti to stop the distraction. But then that led to Paige Van Zandt jumping Ty Conti. But none of this did anything to Sammy Guevara and Scorpio Sky. So both of them were essentially still evenly matched. Scorpio Sky hits the TKO on Sammy Guevara. 1, 2, 3. We have a new TNT champion, and his name is Scorpio Sky. What? He's TNT Champ. And he came out to his theme from Who We Are. Shout out to everybody who worked on that.
3 title matches on Dynamite.
3 title matches on Dynamite. All 3 challengers were black. And one of them won. Scorpio Sky is your new TNT Champ. We kind of always knew that he was going to be the guy. It was almost, as a matter of fact, they kept noting that Scorpio Sky hadn't lost a singles match in 364 days. That singles match he lost, by the way, was to Darby Allin for the TNT title. And Scorpio had vowed that the next time he got his hands on a TNT title match, he would win it. It took a year, but he did it. He's the champ. And he's going to lose. I mean, he's probably going to beat Wardlow. I think he's going to beat Wardlow. I think
it's got to be MJF cost.
Yeah, I think it's
Wardlow.
MJF interference. But I do think it was a cool moment. And Scorpio is handed one of the belts. Sammy, by the way, was asked why he carries around 2 belts, and he said, "Because I won 2 matches." And actually, it's kind of fair. But that would also mean that Scorpio wouldn't need both belts. So he raised up 1 belt, and then he grabbed the other belt, hit Sammy over the head with it, and then Paige Van Zandt signed the contract on Ty Conti's ass. And she, hold on, ready for it? is All Elite. Is that
She
under boob?
That is under boob. You know,
All
I
right.
can identify some under boob.
Yes, you can.
If anybody can identify under boob, it's me.
That's the first time I've seen this picture, actually, so I wasn't certain, but that is under boob. So, Scorpio Sky is our new TNT champ. What a newsworthy episode of Dynamite. It really only had one like remarkable match to me, but I'd say there was a lot that came out of it. Coming out of this episode, all of a sudden we got Jericho's got a new faction. And the Young Bucks really don't want to have anything to do with Paige's feud with Cole. And we also got the debut of Jeff Hardy. And FTR no longer has Tully Blanchard. And we got a new TNT champ. Like, there was a lot. Like, every single segment kind of had something newsworthy to the point of where this wasn't just like a passing by show. Everything, there's new storylines kind of all across the board. So this episode of Dynamite was solid. It was a solid way to come out of the pay-per-view. I am very much looking forward to the steel cage match next week and the TNT title match next week, and it being in a really crazy raucous crowd in San Antonio. These first-time crowds, I think, are doing really well because like San Antonio's never gotten an AEW show. I was tempted because I'm from LA and it's nothing for me to go home. And so I was tempted to try and buy tickets for the Forum. They are moving so fast. My wife's also from Detroit, so I was looking at those Detroit tickets, and I thought we were kind of talking about going on a summer vacation to Detroit anyway, and so I thought maybe I'll go. Like at this point, look, I'm gonna be there for like every Swerve moment I can be there for.
Yeah.
And so I was like, let's try and buy some tickets for Detroit. Those moved really fast. Didn't know that was gonna happen. And so, yeah, a lot of these first-time markets that AEW had been kind of like dangling the carrot over, it's been working because they told all these people for the longest time, like anytime a show was posted, didn't matter where it was. It's like AEW's running some bullshit-ass city in Mississippi, and all the comments would be, when are you coming to Detroit? When are you coming to LA? When is it going to happen? And it's like, hey, you do that for 2 years, and eventually, when you finally drop it in front of people, it sold like crazy. So good for them.
When Sean posted from the scrums that Tony said he was working on St. Louis because he owes us a make good after pulling Full Gear from us, and all the comments were like, well, what about here? Well, what about there? Like 8 million different places. And I'm like, damn, God. Like,
well, what was funny was when they announced, because like that stuff gets answered very quickly, where like they finally made the Detroit announcement, and then they made the LA announcement later that afternoon, and True God posts, what about Baltimore? And the very next day they announced the returning to Baltimore. And I think that one sold really well today too. And that's a return to Baltimore. So it's always good, like the returning markets, if you can outdo what you did last time. And I've got friends here in Denver who are like, when are they coming to Denver? And I'm like, I know when, but I can't say that. But there'll be, there's a lot. There's time. Just give it time. It's all happening. And yeah. Cher, thank you for being here. Day After Dynamite. Oh, wait, I didn't do the thing I'm supposed to do at the end of the show because I didn't get to do it last week because ratings got delayed. But hey, ratings are out. Let's see what the old Brandon Thurston put out for us. And he shared the quarters as well. So, interesting. That Wheeler Yuta and Pac match killed the fucking rating. That they lost like 300,000 people from that. Holy shit.
oh Lord.
That was the only segment of the show that dropped to the 800,000 range, but the rating overall did it did a point 0.4, did 945,000, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that average comes from that 886 quarter. But they started with 1.1 million, and just kind of went
That
from
Big
there.
Bang Theory lead in.
That
Everybody's
Big
got to
Bang
watch
Theory
their
lead.
Big Bang Theory reruns.
Oh yeah, that is nuts. But I still believe they're like way up year over year, aren't they? Yeah, they're still up like 26% year over year. So either way, that is Day After Dynamite. This is what we talk about on Thursdays. It's the day after. Hey, next week, I'm actually going to be joined by my old co-host from RBR Weekly Wrestling Talk, Felipe Diaz-Vera. Haven't hosted with Felipe. I mean, that's not true. I was going to say haven't. I was going to say something that's totally not true. But I hosted with Felipe Diaz-Vera from, let's see, he joined RBR in 2010, and he hosted all the way up till 2013. And so I did 3 years with Felipe. He's now the current host of Generation Animation, which was a show I was very proud to have named in a very spur of the moment thing where I was like, okay, I need a name for a podcast about animated things, Generation Animation. And then they've now been hosting that show. They're going on their 10-year anniversary this year. So
Hey.
shout out to FDV. I'll be hosting with him next week here on Day After Dynamite. And but also a big shout out to Miss Cher Delaware for being here. Very, very, very last minute. Like I asked her like an hour before the show, hey, can you join me on Day After Dynamite? And she was like, yeah, I can join you. And I was like, are you sure? And she said yes. And look at you, you did.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just glad that my hair dried before because it was all over my head, and I just put dye on this side and purple shampoo on this side, so I was a mess. But yeah, I was glad to be here.
And I'm happy you were here. Hey, check out Grapsody this Saturday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ah, fuck. I just realized I'm going to be in California.
Pacific time.
So I actually am going to, I'm always like, I feel bad for the people who have to do the show at 9 a.m., like Reg, who actually does have to do the show at 9 a.m. I'm going to be in California. I actually have to do the show at 9 a.m. Pacific.
That's what you get for traveling so much.
I know. It's so much fun, though. It is. Oh, quick story. So you said getting back from Orlando was a zoo, correct?
Yes.
Did I tell you what I did to make it back on time?
No. You had a later flight, though, right? Not until like that evening? No.
My flight was 9 a.m.
Oh.
Once I saw TSA was not moving fast enough for me to make it on time, I paid the guy at the front of the line $50 to let me cut him. I jumped out of line because I'm like, there's no fucking way I'm going to make it. There's absolutely no way. Not at the rate this is moving. And so I got out of line because I'm like, one of two things has to happen. Like, it's either I get out of line and go get a new flight, because my flight, it was like my doors were going to close in like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And where I was in line, I was like, there's no way I'm going to make it. So I'm like, I either got to jump out of line and go get a new flight or bribe somebody. And so I got to the front of the line and I straight up told dude, I said, my door closes in 15 minutes. I will give you $50 to let me cut you in line right now. And I was hoping he was nice enough to go, oh, dude, don't worry about it. Just jump in. And he's like,
no,
okay.
he's like, give me my
No, he was like, here's my Cash App. And so I wish I was kidding about the story, but literally, if I pull up my Cash App and my recent transactions, it's the last thing I did. But if I look at my...
shout out to him for even letting you get in front of him.
I know, right? Hey, why do I have $7 in my Cash App? That's weird. But yeah, I'll cover up the dude's name. But I totally sent him $50, and so.
Hey, we got there. Okay, we left the hotel like 4-ish,
Mm-hmm.
and Sean's flight was at like 7. Mine wasn't until almost 9. So you would have been in line about the same time that I was, and the line was absurd.
The line
Like,
was so absurd.
I have never seen a line like that in my life.
Not
Like,
only was
flying
it that
out of
bad,
LAX, flying out of freaking JFK, nowhere. Like, and it was not moving.
that was the problem I had, that it wasn't moving. And Anton says Will's a baller. No, it was that I was fucking desperate. It was like I thought, okay, the next flight to Denver is not for 12 hours. I can't, and I'm already checked out of my hotel. I can't do another 12 hours here. I've got a suitcase.
Yeah.
I have a lot of stuff. There's no way I'm going to make it out on time. And I figured it's worth a shot to. And the funny thing was, I told the security guard what I was about to do. And he was like, I'm not going to stop you, but I don't think this is going to work. And I was like, well, I'm going to give it a try. And because he's like, I wouldn't get out of line if I were you. And I'm like, I don't have a choice because I don't want to end up on the other side of TSA and then be stuck here. Like, I can't. So my only.
So you were on the one down on that end, like I was, the one that was like wrapped around and went all the way down the hallway and
like Terminal A, yeah.
Yeah. So Sean was on the other side, so his was a lot shorter. So he made his flight fine. I was in line for 2 hours. 2 hours, and the only reason I got out when I did is because they said, "Do we have any single flyers?" And I raised my hand, and they were like, "We need you to come over here to do the dog thing." Because they had other single flyers, so I missed about 15 minutes of more time in line. Like,
that's good. I mean,
it was awful.
It was awful. I am shocked that it worked to pay the guy at the front of the line, but hey, he's like, I made $50 for essentially stalling 5 minutes. Like it didn't, or 30 seconds. It didn't even delay him much, but like I made $50 for that. So.
Did you see my tweet about the woman that was behind me?
No.
So we had been in line for a while, and this older couple came up and just got in front of me. Like, just as we were going around that corner, just got in front of me, and she didn't say anything for like 5 minutes. And then she was like, "You got us in line," like going on. And they were like, "No, we didn't." She's like, "The line is all the way back there," which a lot of people didn't realize how damn long the line was. And she's losing her mind. So we're in line for like 45 minutes, all the way around back to like almost where the ropes are. And this couple comes up with 3 little kids, and they get in line in front of those people. And they're like, "Our flight leaves in 30 minutes. We got to get through," like going on. And she was like, "No, you don't cut in front." And they're like, "We've been here for 2 hours." And I'm like, if you've been here for 2 hours, why would you, like, you would already be through here if you'd been here for 2 hours, because I hadn't even been there for 2 hours at that point. She gets security, and security makes the 2 that had stood in front of me for 45 minutes and that family all go to the very back of the line. And I was like, do not involve me in this. Like, I was annoyed, but there's no way I would have been like, make these people go to the back of the line. And she just kept talking about it and trying to talk to me, and I'm like, please let me out of this situation. It was so much. Oh my god. Yeah, that airport is a mess.
John
I'm
Alba
gonna have to get clear if I fly through there again.
Same. John Alba said that's the second worst he's ever seen it, and given that he used to live in Orlando, I can take his word for that. I will say I've traveled to Orlando a lot, and I had even told Sean, and he was giving me shit via text because I told Sean, I was like, "Hey, Orlando's a really efficient airport," and he texted me, he's like, "Efficient airport, my ass." And I was like, "Dude, I have never seen it like this." Like the thing, I always commended Orlando because I always thought, hey, you know, every time I've been through Orlando, it's like, it's always busy, but it always moved quickly. And I thought, hey, they have this down to a science. Of course they do. It's the travel capital of the United States, Disney World, Universal Studios. Of course it is. Not this time. They did not. Day. Nope, not that day at all. It was a mess. Hey.
And I flew American, and like half the things to check in for American were down. And so people couldn't check their bags. It was a mess. And I had a bag to check. So it took me even longer to be able to get to security. So it was a mess.
Yeah, I had a carry-on, so it wasn't so bad. And hey, check out my new poster. I just knocked over our camera. My new poster for AEW Revolution. It says, I was
Beautiful.
there. Yeah. I got to find a place
I got a chair over there that I checked as a bag.
Hey, I did that too. That's what I did on my way when I left New York. I checked my I have a Grand Slam chair back there that I do the same thing for. But anyway, and I didn't even check it. I took it as a carry-on. And I stowed it above.
That's amazing. I'm going to try that next time.
Yeah. I mean, you can't have a full flight for that. Actually, you can, because the chair was just big enough to lay flat, so people could still put their bags on top of it, and it was fine. So it wasn't a big deal. Anyway, those are some fun travel stories, and we'll have more stories as Righteous Reg and I get to talk about our adventures in Orlando. That'll be this Saturday on Grapsity at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. YouTube.com/Fightful. Cher, thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. You're the GOAT. Otherwise, folks, we'll see you next time. Have a great day. I'm Will Washington. Peace.